Okay, and our next speaker is Nadiia Dudareva, who is going to talk again about teaching groups online, but her specialty is young learners, right? So we're going to talk about kids now. And at the second track, Maria will tell about how many is enough, how many online tools you need to teach like a pro online. But we welcome Nadiia in this track and continue our discussion about teaching online groups. Welcome.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. All right. So we can start then. So today I would like to share some insights and reflections on my experience of teaching the groups of young learners online. After the presentation, we'll have a question-answer session. So to start with, let me introduce myself. So my name is Nadiia Dudareva. I come from Ukraine, but I've been living in the country of Georgia for nearly 5 years now. As for my educational background, in addition to having a bachelor's degree in philology and master's in translation in Chinese and English languages, I have TEFL and TESOL and TKT certificates. I'm a certified phonics RWI teacher. Additionally, I have an international studying and working experience. I spent 2 years working for a Hong Kong company, teaching English to children of different age in the city of Shenyang, the north of China, as well as in Hong Kong itself. I have also had a great opportunity to have worked for a British Georgian center here in Georgia, teaching English mostly to pre-intermediate and intermediate groups. And for the past 4 years, I've been working as an online teacher of English and Chinese. I work with individual students from all over the world, and I teach some of the groups of the Lingua Club Language Center, which is based in the city of Feodosia, Crimea. Firstly, I'd like to answer shortly to the three most frequently asked and most important questions. That is what, how, and why. So I started my online teaching journey by working for an established company. I had been working before I left for China, and I've been teaching mostly Chinese to mini groups of 4 to 6 students, with my youngest students being 5 years old. I've been using Skype for my classes, and when teaching online, I use a variety of strategies to engage my young learners, just as you would do in a regular classroom, and even more. All my groups in Crimea start with a teacher assistant in class who is always there to help me organize my classroom, print out extra materials when needed, as well as to assist my students whenever they need help. It really depends on the group when exactly they start working without a teacher assistant being in the classroom. But with the young learners, the assistant is always there, ready to help and be my hands in the classroom. And why exactly did I start working online? After I had my first son, I asked myself, how can I be a full-time mother to my child and continue my professional development? And this is exactly when my online teaching journey started. Also, after working online, I realized that the internet is a window of opportunity for all the teachers. Being one of the languages of the 21st century, it enables us to develop, create, share, and teach independently wherever and however we choose. And now let's go deep in the subject and learn more on how I manage my online classrooms and keep my students motivated. Of course, one of the keys to effective classroom management is effective lesson planning. So there are a lot of things a teacher has to take into consideration while preparing for a class, especially with young learners and especially when working online. It is a bit harder to keep the students motivated. The attention span is very short, so the lessons must be interesting, challenging enough, creative, interactive, and fun. So to make my lessons more productive while lesson planning, I always keep in mind the 6 P's rule. The first P stands for pace. So the lessons have to be dynamic. The signals definitely help the teacher. For example, the silent stop signal, that is, I raise my hand and wait for all the students to stop doing whatever they're doing, and they know it already. So they stop doing and start looking at me, and only after that, I start saying something. Also, recently with some of my groups, I've started using the clapping thing. That's how I call it. It's just I do the clapping rhythm with my hands, and I'm waiting for all the students to start doing the same thing. Also, MTYT rule, that is my turn, your turn, never together. So I teach it to my students from the very first class. It means that so my turn, your turn, it means that I start speaking, and only after I finish saying something, my students repeat it after me. So in the beginning, I have to spend more time on reminding them what it means, my turn, your turn, never together. And then I just do it like this, and they already know what it means. Then perfect partner position. That is, I already know in advance who I want to pair up this time, and I ask my students to sit in certain places. So setting the rules is very important, and in my opinion, it is also great to make some of the rules together with the students and discuss why they think we need this kind of rule, like why this rule is important in class. So they will feel appreciated, like their opinion is appreciated, and I think it motivates them to not to break the rule. The next P stands for praise. So I do it a lot, but I praise effectively. So I praise phrases, actions, effective partner work, and I don't just say, oh, good job, or you did great. So I say what particular I like about the student, like what is he doing? What is he doing now? For example, oh, you're doing great with writing this sound. Or sounding something out, and so on. Or I can say, oh, you're improving. So today I can see that you have put a lot of effort in doing something, and see you're succeeding. And here also, my students, they love giving someone a whoosh. It's like, oh, let's do the fireworks and give a whoosh to someone. He did a great job today. So we go whoosh, and also giving high fives to each other, and so on. The next P stands for purpose. That is, each activity has a purpose. As the teachers, we know it, but I also want my students to know what they're doing and why they're doing this particular activity. So after each activity, I try to reflect with my students. So what have we done, and why did we actually do it? The next one is participation. And 100% of participation is partner work. That is why I introduce it to my students from the very first class. I teach them how to work in pairs or in groups and make it a habit. The next one is passion, of course. So the greater the passion, the faster the process. Your students will definitely see if you're doing it with passion, if you love what you're doing. If the teacher loves what he or she is doing, then the students will be enjoying the lesson too. And the last one is persevere. So until you reach all the learning objectives set for a particular class. And also, I use a lot of active learning methods in my classroom. Moments of active learning boost team spirit and offer new perspectives to the topics and joy of learning. So these active methods could be used as an icebreaker, a warm-up activity, or if the students are a bit tired and they need just to relax a bit and play, like sort of play a game. So then I use the active methods. And some of the examples of the active methods I've been using a lot in my classrooms are listed here. The first one is called switching places. That is, you ask your students to stand in a circle with their eyes on the ground first, and then you ask your students to raise their eyes and try to look at another student. And on making eye contact, they should nod and switch places with that student. The next one is called the silent star. That is, you ask your students to stand in a circle and ask them to silently form any kind of shape you choose. So they could form a star, a triangle, a square, anything, but they have to do it without saying a word. The next one is our strength. That is, you give each student a large paper and a marker or a pen, and you ask the students to attach the papers on each other's backs and write something nice about that person. The next one is called hot chair. That is, one student sits in the center of the classroom, others form a circle around, and the students sitting in a circle ask questions, and the one on the hot chair answers the questions. Also, a teacher can be in the hot chair, for example, dressed up as someone the students are trying to find out who. And of course, with the teacher being online, the teacher will be sitting in his or her imaginary hot chair. And the next one is go if. That is, students sit in a circle on chairs with one of the students in the middle. And the student in the middle makes a statement starting with go if. For example, go if you're wearing something black today. So all the students to whom the statement applies, they change seats. The student in the middle of this circle tries to get a seat, and the student who is left without a chair goes to the middle and asks the next question. The next one is called four corners. So you prepare questions to which students can answer A, B, C, or D. So you name one corner of the room A, the other one B, etc. And make sure you ask the teacher assistant to label the corners before the class starts, so you don't waste your precious time for doing it during the lesson. So you ask the students to answer the question by going to one of the corners, and then you ask them to justify and explain why they choose this answer option. So discuss and reflect. And the last one is backpack full of memories. That is, the teacher chooses a character, for instance, Sherlock Holmes, and the teacher collects small objects, postcards, pictures, etc., and in a backpack related to the character. It is up to the teacher to choose whether the assistant has the backpack or the teacher has one. So, and then students then solve how each object related to the character. Or you might even have all the objects in your backpack, and you might say, for instance, I am Sherlock Holmes, and then the students, you are asking your students to guess what you might have in your backpack. And so you can do it the other way. So these are only some of the examples. Of course, the teacher should choose the active methods that best suits him or her, the student group, and the topic. And of course, modify the activity according to the student's age, language level, and special needs. Also, I do believe that developing the right mindset early on is crucial for a full big life. So when kids learn that putting forth effort and using the right strategies can make them smarter, they try harder and achieve more. So when they know their brains are capable of growing, amazing things can happen. So in my class, I teach the students, even my 5-year-olds, that it is okay to make mistakes, that you never give up. It's okay to ask for help. and never be silent if you don't understand something, because it happens a lot with the young learners. They are being shy. They don't want to admit that there's something they don't understand. So they just don't ask. And then in the end, you might have some problems because of that. So I make sure I keep telling my students that it is okay. You don't understand, but we're learning here. We're learning together. There are a lot of things the teacher doesn't know either. So let's learn together. And when I first saw the picture of the learning pit, which you can see here in my presentation, I absolutely loved it. And I have been showing it to my students ever since and explaining it to them over and over again, that you can achieve something big only if you're not afraid of falling in the pit. I think it's also a great idea to make a learning pit with the groups and hang the poster on the classroom wall as a reminder. So if they, start being afraid again, like, oh, I don't know how to do it, I can't do it, then, you show them the learning pit again and say, look, so now you're here, but it's okay. So just ask for help. We will help you. Your peers will help you. I can help you. And then we will get out of the pit together. And in order to achieve learning objectives and make your classroom more interactive and engaging, have everyone involved in the learning process. Differentiation is a crucial part of effective lesson planning. It boosts learning motivation. Children have very different personalities, of course, all of us are, and they have their different learning needs and abilities. That is why it is very important to take it into account while lesson planning, so that all the children have adequate challenges and successful experiences. I always have something extra in my pocket for more advanced students, and I know how to simplify the assignment for those who need more support. Varying activities according to the learning type is also helpful. In the beginning, you might not know yet what learning style each of the students has, so a good mix of different activities in the beginning, in my opinion, is a good choice. And as I have mentioned before, in my class, we do a lot of group work and pair work. This way, each student is an active learner and is included in the learning process, not left behind. I also think ahead who to pair up and what kind of assistance is needed to each of the students. So there is also time for individual work, and this is when all the students are working in their own pace. No one is sitting there doing nothing, getting bored because he's done with his assignment, because he or she always have more to work on. So when the individual parts, when we start working individually, no one ever, we don't do it this way. Okay, you finish one page and then we'll check all together. No, one of the students is done, he shows me, or he shows me what he has done, or I ask him some questions, and then the student keeps working with something else. And the last but not least, this learning pyramid is always in my notebook to remind me about the percentage of effectiveness of introducing some kind of activity. So as you see, the lecture, it's only 5%. So it's like if these students just sit there and listen to the teacher, nothing, they don't really learn anything. And we get 75% when they practice doing something, and even more when they teach others. So that when they work together, when they work in pairs or groups. And of course, constant feedback takes place. I keep in touch with the parents via Viber, VK, Facebook, and WhatsApp. I'm online almost all the time, and the parents can reach me whenever they feel like doing that. Well, of course, sometimes I choose not to respond late at night, but I can also send them the message around 11 or 11 p.m. or even 1 a.m. Well, with certain parents, I do that because I know it's their phones are on the silent mode, and then they will respond when they can do that. So I also contact all the parents if there is something I would like to discuss, and or send some extra materials such as links to a song or a video, etc. And with the older students, we create message groups in VK or Viber mostly. And so as for the materials, I always have my portable whiteboard, and it helps me to illustrate some of the ideas, help my students do the mind mapping and other things. So of course I can always share my screen, and I do it very often. I use Microsoft Word or OpenOffice, so I just type it and they can see it. I will show you the examples later. But using the whiteboard is also very important. I have an A4 size whiteboard, and there I can write something, draw something, erase, and it's just easier for some things and better. We have course books, of course, and I use a lot of flashcards. And for most of the topics, my students have sets of their own. So I send the assistant a PDF or Word file with the cards, usually black and white, because I want my students to make the cards, like color the cards or write the names of the objects on the cards and so on. So the teacher assistant prints them out and cuts them out into pieces if needed, and I ask my students to make flashcards at home, or sometimes we make them together in class. And using only course books, of course, is never enough. So we use a lot of worksheets, watch videos on YouTube, listen to podcasts. I often make lessons more personalized, and I show some videos and pictures of my own, relevant to the topic, of course. And we make a lot of crafts, projects, play games, sing TPR songs. With older students, I've started using the Quizlet, and also I've started using Kahoot, and we enjoy using it a lot. So the teacher in Quizlet, the teacher just creates the word list, and I send the link to my students. They take their mobile phones, they follow the link, and they just start working with the vocabulary. So basically, we do everything one would do in a regular classroom, but with the teacher being on the screen. And also sometimes I surprise my students with something like this. You can see my picture wearing a Minnie Mouse hat. Or I put on funny sunglasses, or even a hat and a scarf, but during summertime, not winter time. And it kind of makes them feel as I'm acting like a big kid. And here, in my opinion, so I've told you that I've been using Skype for my online lessons. And in my opinion, using Skype for online teaching is the simplest thing to do, as it is very stable for audio quality, and you simply screen share your desktop to show PowerPoint or Keynote presentations, or work directly from educational websites. You can send files, type corrections, and new vocabulary in the message box, or type them in a Word document, which I have been doing a lot with my young learners. And here I have some examples of using effectively Skype, obviously Keynote and OpenOffice. So in the OpenOffice document, you can see it that I was typing something, and I could highlight what I wanted the students to pay more attention to. And I also could type the corrections and change the font and everything, and they could just copy it or read everything I wanted them to read, and so on. Also, there's a picture of one of my keynote presentations. What we did here was, there's also a text. You can see it's in Chinese. So this is a text about one of the boys and his family. So we were making the presentation together. So I was typing on my computer in the Keynote, or you could use PowerPoint for that. and my students could see the screen, and they were copying it into their notebooks and making the presentation sort of with me, but I was doing it on my computer, and they were being more creative and doing it in their notebooks. Then we added some pictures. They drew the boy, they drew his family, and so on. Also on another picture, you can see it, that we were reading a comic, and so I just shared my screen, and Slava was reading it to me, and we were translating it together. And next, here you can see some of the examples of the homework my students did at home, and I get a lot of questions like that. Okay, how about homework? You can't see, and they're young, like they're only 5 or 6, and you can't really watch them, like you can't watch them how they write something. It's actually easy. With the younger students, I ask the parents to take the pictures of their homework and send it to me via Viber, WhatsApp, or whatever, and have a look at it, and then I either send an emoji like great job, or I just write some comments, or even can send a voice message saying what I would like their son or daughter to correct, and so on. Sometimes we'll also check it in class. So it's like after one of the students is done with something, I just ask him to show it to me, and that's it. So I just look at it, and I tell him what to correct, or if everything is fine, I ask him to draw a smiley face. And with the younger students, I've been, my teacher assistant, she has some stickers for them. So sometimes I ask her just to stick the sticker in their notebooks. And here we were celebrating the Chinese New Year, and on the video that is here, I was sharing my screen once again, and this is the video I took when I was working in China. And then you can see all the decorations. So that's, once again, I asked the teacher assistant to decorate all the classrooms before the class started. And then we did some activities. Here are some of the examples of us making crafts together. So on the first 2 pictures, you can see my 5-year-olds. We were learning a new poem, and I absolutely love it when we illustrate it. So when we learn something, I try to make sure my students illustrate it, or if we sing a song, I want them to do the actions. So here we were just making a big project about the sea animals. And on the third picture, you can see my 7-year-olds. We were learning the Chinese characters, and we were using the Play-Doh to make the characters. And the last picture with the seasons is actually my work. Why I put it here is because I wanted to share it with you that I always do everything my students are doing in class. So if we're learning seasons and I want us to make a project, then I have all the materials and I do it with my children, but from this side of the screen. I think that this way we're sort of being closer to each other, and I can show them what exactly I want them to do, and so on. Here there are more examples. So see, we've been using paints, flashcards, once again the Play-Doh, and some examples of other projects. So the 3 takeaways for you for today is the first one, obviously, effective lesson planning is a key to a successful online teaching journey. The second one, aim for equity, not equality. So equity is giving everyone what they need to be successful, and equality is treating everyone the same. So not everyone starts at the same place. They don't come to our classes from blank, like papers. and not everyone has the same needs. And that is differentiation is a crucial part of lesson planning. And the last one is constant feedback is important. So it is not just you and the student, but it is you, the student, and his or her parents. And here are my contact details. You could contact me by email or via Skype. And I guess that's it for now. So thank you for attention, and please feel free to ask any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Nadiia. Thank you for very interesting approach and sharing these active methods and doing all these things with children. Yes, we have some questions here. So, okay. Can kids communicate directly with you in private chats, for example?
Yes, they can. Of course, if a student is already capable of using the mobile phone, if the parents let him do it, then of course, yes. I have a lot of my students who are using Viber, for instance, mostly of VK actually, but some of them are using Viber too, but not my 5-year-old.
Okay. Okay. How do you teach your students to write? Maybe not 5 years old, but 7, 8 years old. And if yes, how do you do this?
So they already know how to write, but when you, when speaking about Chinese characters, for example, so that is why I have my whiteboard here, and I show all the lines we have to learn, and they copy the lines, like they can do the air writing first. And then we have a lot of worksheets with the tracing. And then we go to the next level, writing the characters on their own. And also there is a whiteboard in the classroom, and just the teacher assistant puts it somewhere where I can see it. And sometimes I can't really see everything that's on the board, but I still can follow the lines my students are writing. So I know if it's correct or not. Okay. And also, I've been teaching for quite a while now. So even when they're just writing their notebooks, I can already tell if they're making a mistake or not.
Okay, yes. Have you got a community on VK where teachers can come and share their ideas maybe?
Well, in VK, I have my personal page, and I do post some useful materials over there, and also have my Instagram account. I have two. I have private one and the one for my teaching, for sharing my teaching experience. Yeah. Okay,
thanks. And do you ever switch to the native language of children who are in your group?
Well, it really depends. Well, with the 5-year-olds and when teaching Chinese, yes, I do. With the English language, I prefer not to do that, because English, why, I will explain. Well, Chinese is a bit more challenging. I'd say a lot of things they do not understand, of course, and they have to use their mother tongue to explain. But with the English language, I'm just trying to be more expressive and explain everything, like show the pictures, do the actions, and so on. But sometimes, of course, yes, I do use L1.
Okay. How can you find students from China? I would put it broader. So how do you promote yourself? Where do you get these kids groups?
Well, how can one find students from China? I'm not quite sure, but I can tell you how to promote yourself. Yes, I haven't been doing it a lot, to be honest, because I have quite a few working hours right now, and I'm not really searching for new students. But in general, I think that first of all, you really should have your Instagram account, and you should be registered on Facebook and VK, mostly on Facebook, because if you want to find students from abroad, most of them are from Facebook. You can't really find them in VK. So just create your Instagram and Facebook account, and join some join some of the groups for online teachers, and there start sharing. But my advice would also be to start making your Instagram account first, like fill it up with some of the pictures, some of the posts, and only after that, showing your links somewhere. Because I think that it is better when you have what to show, but not just write it somewhere like, hey, I'm an online teacher from Ukraine or Russia, whatever, France, and I'm looking for the students. So I think there must be something to show. So with your posts, some pictures of your lessons with the feedbacks from the parents. So the pictures of the feedbacks.
Okay. And what's the youngest group you've taught?
Actually, I did work with the 9 months old, but not online. So online, I think it is, if it's a group, it is better to start when they already turn 5. And if you work with individual students, then 4 is also fine.
And how do you find assistant teachers? Or do they find you?
No. As I mentioned before, that I'm working for an established company, and the assistant teachers, they're not actually teachers. Most of them are office managers. They're office managers, so they're just there all the time. And I have so there are 3 buildings of the school, and I have classes in each of the buildings. And in each of the building, I have one person who is ready to assist me during my classes. I don't teach from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. I usually have my classes from 4 p.m. till 7:38 because I have my kids, and one of them is too small to go to daycare, so I have to take care of him. And only after 3, I have a nanny who comes in. So I work up to 4. So I have about 20 hours per week. And that's why the office managers, they are ready to assist. Not all of them, but who is ready, then I start working with them, and that's it.
Okay, so they do not have to be an English teacher, right? So it can be any.
No, they don't speak any Chinese or English.
Okay.
I mean, they do learn with us, and they already know a lot of words.
Okay. We have one more question. What is your opinion? Is it possible to work with young learners of 5 years old, for example, but connecting to the lesson on their own with the help of parents, maybe? Not like you organize a group, but where is the teacher assistant? And what should I say to parents who think that their children can't study online? They are too young.
Well, do I understand correctly that you're speaking about groups or individual groups?
We are speaking about groups, so let's put it like this. Yes, so our focus is groups now. Yes.
Okay, great. Group of students, the 5-year-olds, with the parent sitting in the classroom. Let's say, like at someone's house, right? First of all, I'd like to start with answering the second question. What should you say to the parents? Ask them to try, and that's it. My first lesson is, especially with the parents sitting in the classroom, it's usually free of charge. So I just let them try, because of course it is very new for them. And some of the parents, they go like, what, online? No way. And I just say, okay, why, just try it. If you like it, then, we'll continue. If not, it's totally up to you. So just persuade the parent, with your teaching experience, with your educational background, be persuasive that, you know what you're doing, and I've been doing it for quite a while now, and we can do it, and your children can do it. Believe in your children. That's what I would say to the parent. And
sorry.
And I think, yes, it is
sorry,
possible.
Nadia. I'm awfully sorry to interrupt you, but the idea was that these children are in their own homes, so they are all in different places with parents, so not in one group, not in one place.
This one, I think it would be a little bit harder to organize because you have to find them somehow, and the parents have to be ready to work with other parents too, because working with young children, of course, there has to be an adult, always there. So I think that it is possible, of course, and it's worth trying, but it will be a bit more challenging. So I think that if they are in one city, for example, it would be better if you ask them to come to one place, maybe not a school, but maybe someone's house. But if they're like from different countries or cities, then it will be a little bit more difficult to organize, but it's still worth trying. I think, why not?
Okay, thank you very much.
Make sure you impress everyone on your very first class, because first impression is very important.
Yes, that's true. Thank you very much.